Crank it up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe when we don't talk it all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
All right, we were raising hell, absolutely no doubt about that. Over the weekend, the United States sent one of the world's most evil men straight to the depths of hell, and that's how we get started this Monday morning, right here on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. I appreciate you coming on. We have a lot of things to try to learn today, so I turned to two professors, two of my most respected members of the intelligence community, if you will, vis-a-vis the Middle East, jihad, Iran specifically, and what President Trump ordered over the weekend shocked a lot of people, but it was not something that happened overnight. They didn't make a decision on Friday night. You know what we'll do in the morning? The hell with them. Let's just bond. No, this has been something that's been in the works for a very, very long time. What the impact of the United States attack on Iran, the killing of the Ayatollah Khamenei and most of his top lieutenants in Iran, what that means for national security for the United States here at home in the homeland and American interests abroad. That's what we need to learn about today. So like I said, I've got two great professors coming up in an hour. We're going to talk to Claire Lopez, former CIA analyst and we're an officer, and she is a Middle East expert as well, especially on Iran. But we start the show today with a man who was just testifying a couple of weeks ago before Congress. He is the founder of Jihad Watch and the Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. We've had him on many times before, and we're very fortunate to get him back today to make sense of what's going on in Iran and across the world. He is Robert Spencer. Robert, if you can hear me, thank you for the time. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. Great to see you.
It is great to see you and to have you today. This is a coup for me because I know you are probably in demand all over the country and maybe the world with your expertise and analysis of what happened over the weekend. So thanks for making some time for us. Your most recent article that on frontpagemag.com just headlined very simply, Khamenei is dead. Can you talk about what that means, not only to the United States, but to the people who were being slaughtered by him and his regime over the course of the last month? Tell us what it means that Khamenei is dead.
Well, Bob, first off, unfortunately, I have to say the Islamic regime is still alive. However, for Khamenei to be dead at this point is a pivotal event that could spell the end of it. I do think there will be another supreme leader, but I'm hoping, and I think there's a very good chance that the next supreme leader is going to be like Admiral Dönitz at the end of World War II. You may remember that Hitler killed himself on April 30th, 1945, and in his last will and testament, he decreed that Admiral Karl Dönitz would become the leader of Germany, and he was for about 3 weeks over the small remnant of Germany that the Nazis still ruled until the Allies mopped the whole thing up. And so the best hope that free people have in Iran today is that the next supreme leader is going to be there maybe for a couple of weeks before the whole regime is toppled.
So what does that mean if his hand-picked leadership is still in, because there were some questions about that. Heck, just an hour ago, as I was up preparing for today on Fox News, they were discussing the fact that a significant number of Khamenei's top, Khamenei, I think is how you're pronouncing it, so I've got to defer to you. But a number of his top lieutenants were killed, a lot of the leadership structure. So I don't know who the hand-picked individuals would be, but what is the likelihood? In other words, maybe a better way to say this is how far down the chain would it go that it is still a member of the Islamic Republic of Iran that is in leadership, but it's not exactly one of his top guys?
Well, Bob, the thing is that there are a lot of Shiite clerics, and it is a supreme council of leading Shiite clerics that picks the next supreme leader. And so you're absolutely right that a lot of the top regime, which includes a lot of top Shiite clerics, they've all been killed. However, there are plenty more, unfortunately. A lot of them are in Qom rather than in Tehran and scattered around the country. This is an extremely extensive group. And so you decapitate the primary leadership. The main thing you have done is not ensure that there will not be another supreme leader, although that's not outside the realm of possibility, but ensure that the supreme leader, or make it very likely that the next supreme leader is not going to be a national figure, not going to be somebody the Iranians already know, but somebody from the hinterlands who has been a loyal worker in the regime for decades, and they pick him out now in their hour of crisis because they don't have anybody else. And I don't think he will have the stature to be able to marshal the remaining forces of the regime to survive the onslaught it's facing right now.
Robert, I think a lot of Americans were wondering when we woke up to this, why now? And I can tell you from a political perspective, I asked some people that I trust, are you kidding? Why right now? Is this going to help us win the midterms? I talked about, affordability and the economy. President Trump at the State of the Union address talking about all these things. This is where the renewed focus is going to be. Politically, I was wondering if this is helpful or not. So you don't have to address it politically, but generally speaking, Americans are saying, why right now? Iran has been doing this for 47 years. The Ayatollah has been doing this. So suddenly what decided, made President Trump make the decision to say, we're getting them right now?
Bob, the Iranians, after the June 2025 strikes, their nuclear program was crippled, but they have been developing long-range ballistic missiles that threatened not only Israel, but American interests in the region. And we have to remember that the Ayatollah Khamenei said, when we chant death to America, we are not just uttering a slogan. This is the policy and the goal of the regime. And so that ballistic missile program had to be taken out before it became fully operational. And this is why now. I don't think that the president was thinking, oh, this is going to help us in the midterms. However, it does appear that it's going to, at least among the people who are already on board. The left is being crazy about this whole thing and mourning the Islamic regime, mourning the Ayatollah. It's absolutely insane. I don't think it's going to gain them any support. The hardcore leftists are going to remain hardcore leftists. But a lot of Americans are grateful that America is no longer being weak on the global stage as it has been all through the Obama and Biden years, and is looking out for American interests. This is something that resonates with the American people. We're tired of being pushed around.
I've got a report here from the Times of Israel, Robert Spencer, that says, senior administration official claims U.S. offered free nuclear fuel forever, but was rebuffed by Iran, which wanted to preserve enrichment ability for nuclear bomb, and that Iran was planning to preemptively launch missiles, and Trump was forced to act. That's the Times of Israel. So can you tell me what your thoughts are on that?
Well, that is the ballistic missile program I was referring to. Yeah. But the nuclear fuel business was predicated on the Islamic Republic not developing nuclear weapons. And this was something that, despite decades of denials and claims that they weren't really interested in developing nuclear weapons at all, when it came down to Trump saying, okay, let's take you seriously on that. We will actually give you nuclear fuel as long as safeguards are absolutely in place so that you cannot develop nuclear weapons. Then they said no. And so it was very clear what they were about, very clear what they were going to do. If they had gotten a nuclear weapon, they would certainly have nuked Israel, which would have had repercussions, not just for Israel, which would have been essentially destroyed, but for the whole region and the world. And so the president had to head that off.
I don't want to be redundant about the nuclear capabilities, but because you just mentioned the June 2025 strikes, we were told that it degraded their ability to produce a nuke by decades. The president kind of in explaining that to the American people, here's why we had to do this. It might not end the threat of them getting a nuclear weapon and trying to wipe Israel off the face of the map, which is exactly what they have threatened for decades. But it is degraded their ability by decades. So now here we are, 8-9 months later, and we're saying we had to do this to stop them from becoming a nuclear power. Why?
Well, I think, like I said before, the main immediate threat was the ballistic missile threat. But there's no doubt that they were going to resume the nuclear program and step it up. And we also have to remember that there are malign actors in the world. Russia has been working with Iran for decades also. And so it's very likely that if the American government continued to project the weakness of the Obama-Biden years, that Russia would have stepped in at this point to aid the Iranians in rebuilding their nuclear program, so that the native program was set back decades, but with help from Russia and or China, they could have restored it much more quickly.
How big of a threat are those ballistic missiles? And I asked that through the lens of North Korea has been testing ballistic missiles for decades. They have been very, very quiet, by the way, especially since January of 2025, when President Trump took over again. They were very active prior to that during the Obama administration, and during Biden somewhat too. But anyway, I don't know how far they reach. Are we talking about intercontinental ballistic missiles that could have actually reached the United States from Iran?
Well,
And how do we know? I mean, have they tested them? How do we know how big that threat was?
no, to my knowledge, they haven't tested anything of the kind. But the intelligence regarding the ballistic missiles made it very clear that they had the capability to hit Israel, to hit what we've seen them hit actually over the last few days: American bases in Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, where else? Qatar, all over the Gulf. And that's the problem when you're talking about missiles that they have in large numbers that can do a lot of damage. Then the threat is immediate and has to be stopped.
So I mentioned North Korea. Let's talk a little bit about this, axis of evil, if you will. Russia, North Korea, and Iran have all been allies, for different reasons over the course of the decades. How does this impact them? What response do you think we can expect from a despot? And first of all, you have Vladimir Putin, but Kim Jong-un, and then we might as well throw China on top of this as well. Anything that is done to degrade the Islamic Republic, upon whom all three of those other nations depended to help kind of their mutual goals of attacking and destroying the West. How does this strike impact our relationship with them, or does it embolden them at all?
Bob, all three of those people that you mentioned, Xi Jinping, Putin, and Kim Jong-un, they understand the world in terms of strength and weakness. And they see this as a manifestation that America is strong and that they better not mess around. This is something that is sharply different from the projection of the Obama-Biden years that America was weak. And so it's actually the weakness that emboldens somebody like Kim Jong-un and not the strength. And so this is an extremely positive move in terms of our relations with Russia, China, and North Korea, because they see that this is not a time for global adventurism. This is a time to pull down their sails and maybe wait and hope for Gavin Newsom to be president in 2029, and then we'll see a lot of trouble from each of them again.
Robert, anytime the United States engages in military action, particularly in the Middle East, we're all going to go back to and remember the Iraq War. And people have said since then, no more blood and treasure should be spilled, on foreign soil, or blood spilled and treasure spent, rather, on foreign soil. If they're not directly attacking the United States, it's not worth the blood of American lives and troops. And we know that there are 3 that have lost their lives already, 5 severely wounded. And President Trump said yesterday he knows, sadly, there will be more, because this is going to be probably a month-long campaign or so, and there will be more. He said that's just the way it goes. What would you say to the American people to tell them that the spilled blood is worth it?
I would tell them that it's a total lie that the Iranian regime did not threaten the United States directly and immediately. They have killed over 800 servicemen over their history. They've been on a war footing against the United States since 1979. They were responsible for the 1983 Beirut barracks bombing, in which several hundred American servicemen were killed. The Hezbollah regime, the Hezbollah group that was responsible for that, is a wholly owned proxy and subsidiary of Iran. They have sent assassination squads to the United States to murder Iranian dissidents, including the high-profile dissident in New York, Masih Alinejad, and a Saudi diplomat in Washington, D.C. And so this is a regime that would continue to act with impunity to harm Americans and the United States. I should also add that they were working closely with the Maduro government in Venezuela, and not because they cared about South America, but because they were using it as a foothold to get into the United States. Hezbollah was also active at the northern border, working with the drug cartels. And so this was not some remote country shouting death to America, but entirely powerless to bring it about. This was a country that was working actively to harm the United States.
Robert, one of the most shocking things, we're talking to Robert Spencer, founder of Jihad Watch and the Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Arab and Muslim countries in the region are on our side. I never ever would have thought this, that, they were not necessarily supportive of Iran to begin with. They see us showing that strength now, taking out the Ayatollah, an opportunity maybe to eliminate the Islamic regime. And they're on our side. They're supportive. And I'm talking about some of the major players in the region. Did you see that coming? And what do you make of that now?
Yeah, I did. And it's because they're Sunnis and the Iranian regime is Shiite. And the Abraham Accords are all based on the idea of Sunni states being threatened by Shiite Iran and thus banding together with Israel, which is also threatened by Shiite Iran. And so the idea of Shiite states such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and so on, being on our side against Iran, it was certainly plausible or conceivable that they would have gone the other way. There's an old Arab proverb that translates to my brother against my brother, but both of us against our cousin. And Sunni and Shia have been known to fight together against non-Muslims. The Iranian funding of Hamas against Israel is a notorious example. But at the same time, the Sunni states realized that Iran posed an existential threat to them. And the Iranians have only made that clearer over the last few days by sending all the missiles into the Gulf states. And so the Sunnis siding with us, it's a welcome development, but not an entirely unexpected one.
Robert, I mentioned before you went before Congress a couple of weeks ago. Congress is now divided on this, as you can imagine, and they're divided on everything, of course, that President Trump decides to do. But the Democrats are saying that the War Powers Act cannot supersede the Constitution. The Constitution says they have to give the approval for war to be declared. If this is a month-long campaign, is this a war? And will the president have to win Congress over in order to continue it, in your opinion?
No, a month-long campaign is not a war. I think it's ridiculous that the Democrats are trying this after all the attacks that the Obama administration carried out, and the fact that there hasn't been a declared war since World War II. And so we're talking about Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and there's no declaration of war. There was never a state of war in any of those conflicts. And now they're insisting there has to be a declaration of war only because Trump is president. This has nothing to do with anything else. And if Obama had carried out this strike and decapitated the Iranian Islamic regime, they would be hailing him as bringing peace to the world.
Robert, it's almost comical to picture such a thing, given the fact that what we do know that Obama did with the Iranian regime, sent them all of that money, those pallets of cash, of which we have pictures, $1.7 billion sent during the Obama. And then President Trump comes in, changes policy, and one term later, Joe Biden sends another $6 billion, nearly $10 billion between the last two Democrat presidents, sent to the Iranians to do what? What was the purpose of paying them off if we were trying to make sure that they could not develop a nuclear bomb, if we were trying to make sure that they could not carry out any more of the assaults through their state-sponsored terrorism against Israel and American allies?
The best spin you can put on that was that they were trying to buy friendship. They were trying to buy off the Iranian regime to make sure that they didn't threaten American interests. But as I explained before, that was a regime that only saw the world and still sees the world in terms of strength and weakness. And they saw those pallets of cash as an incredible manifestation of weakness, and it only made them more aggressive. It was also secondarily so-called humanitarian aid, which is the biggest trick played on the American people. Look, if I give you money and you're a bad actor, you have more money to do bad actions. Even if you pledge that the money I gave you, you're not going to use for anything bad. It's ridiculous. And so the Iranian regime actually used that money to fund Hamas, Hezbollah, and other jihad terror groups around the world. And anybody could have seen that coming. And so really we have the Obama and Biden administrations to thank for the present aggression of the Iranian regime. They're the ones who financed it.
That's a huge, huge statement, and I could not agree more. That is something we all talked about during that time when that cash was discovered, and then when Biden did what he did as well. Now we have to talk about the other eye in the region, which of course is Israel. This was a joint strike between the U.S. and Israel, and the anti-Israel left in the United States and some on the right, believe it or not. They've been complaining that Israel is running American foreign policy for a long time. They've been complaining that America is essentially under the thumb of Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis. And they're saying more of this now. They're saying that Israel has so much control over Trump because of Trump's relationship that they actually got him to fight their battle for them, that this is solely something that Israel wanted to do, and they talked the United States. The threat against the U.S. was not as severe and dire as you just described, Robert. This is all about Israel's desire to strike at the heart of Iran, and the U.S. was its puppet, if you will. How do you answer those people?
Well, I think it's very clear that Trump is acting on the basis of American interests and not Israeli ones, or he would not have stopped the Israelis from carrying out further strikes against the Iranian regime back in June 2025. A lot of people think that was a terrible miscalculation, that he should have allowed the Israelis to keep going, would have toppled the regime then, and then they would not have killed 36,500 Iranian people whom the Iranian regime just put to death over the last few weeks because they were engaging in protests. This was something the Israelis had wanted to continue in June 2025, and Trump stopped them. And it's very clear that there is an immediate threat, or was an immediate threat, to American interests, as I outlined before, and Trump acted upon it. If he had not stopped the Israelis in June 2025, he might not have had to act over this past week. If he had not stopped the Israelis in Gaza, then the Israelis would have destroyed Hamas as a movement, but Hamas still lives. And so you got to look at the fact that he's not actually acted in favor of Israeli interests in several important particulars. But the anti-Israel crowd that has sprung up on the patriotic right over the last few months always ignores that.
That's great explanation. And the one thing that we do have to acknowledge, though, is Israel will benefit from this because Iran has been the funder, the state. A lot of that money we sent them, but they have sponsored Hamas. They have funded Hezbollah. They have funded, the Houthis. They have funded so many of these other terrorist organizations that have attacked and continue to attack Israel. What happens now with respect to that? Are those organizations now kind of decapitated, at least for the time being, until we see who fills the leadership vacuum in Iran?
Yeah, they are. And we should also remember, Bob, as we were discussing a minute ago, that the funding that Iran gave to all the entities that you named came from the United States, that all that came from the billions that Obama and Biden gave to the Iranian regime. And this is not something that is just a matter of opinion or surmise. It has been documented that the money that Obama sent, those pallets of cash and all that, primarily went not for the welfare of the Iranian regime, of the Iranian people, but to fund Hezbollah and Hamas and the rest. And so this is, to say, well, this does benefit Israel. Well, what should we do? Israel is our ally. Should we always make sure to harm Israel so that we don't give the appearance of being run by Israel? Or can we help out our allies just as they help us out with the technology that they have, for example, for missile defense, which is unparalleled? And the president actually spoke wrongly not long ago. I love him, but he said, we developed that technology, not the Israelis. Well, that's not actually the case, but they are sharing it with us, and we should be grateful for that. This is not a matter of, like Steve Bannon said, an American protectorate. This is very much a two-way relationship.
Yeah, and that's extremely important. It's a partnership. It's an alliance for a reason, for crying out loud, and there are a lot of reasons for that, including moral ones. I completely concur. By the way, speaking of the incredible ability of Israeli technology and the Mossad. You know, we all were like amazed that they managed to somehow engineer the pagers for some of the top lieutenants to well, not just top, but for you know, scores of their enemies to go off and explode. Now they somehow accessed a prayer app, an Islamic prayer app that was used by you know, I don't know how many Iranians, but they found a way to tap into that to actually deliver a new message saying, put down your guns or pick them up and turn them against the regime, and we will allow you not only to live, but we will, you know, they offered them some other incentives. Can you speak more about that?
Well, the thing is that the Israelis actually take immense care to avoid civilian casualties. That's the unspoken lesson that people don't ever draw from the pager incident. It was Hezbollah operatives who had those pagers. They you know, people say, oh, but there were children. Well, what's a Hezbollah operative doing giving his child the pager by which the Hezbollah high command communicates with him? The whole idea of the pager operation was to avoid civilian casualties. And it's the same thing with the prayer app, that the people who got it were people who got the message, were people who were likely to be on the side of the Iranian regime. Because we should also remember another little noted fact, that a recent survey showed, a very extensive, carefully calibrated survey showed that most Iranians have actually turned away from Islam at this point. And they're so disgusted by the Islamic regime that they're no longer practicing Islam. So who's going to have a prayer app except an observant Muslim who is likely to be a supporter of the regime? So this is yet another instance in which the Israelis are taking care to target the people who are actually the lethal danger to the Iranian people who are patriots and are trying to rid the country of the regime. Brilliant. And they never get credit for this kind of thing.
Yeah, that is absolutely brilliant. Robert, I know you've got more obligations this morning. I'll make this the last one. What does this do to the ceasefire that we have had going on in Israel now, between Israel and Gaza? I kind of just figure, again, Hamas cannot continue to reconstitute, rebuild everything that they were probably doing since that ceasefire began. Now that their primary source of funding and operational support is in, you know, it's been decimated, obviously. So does this increase the likelihood that ceasefire will be true peace?
Well, you know, Hamas is never going to lay down its arms and say, okay, we give up. That's never going to happen. Yes, they've lost 83% of their funding if the Islamic Republic is no longer going to be funding them. Yes, that means they will be severely restricted in their operations. But these people are ideologically motivated. They believe they are serving their God. And that's not going to change. They're going to do it with whatever they've got. And so the only way to destroy Hamas is to end its capability to strike. Even if it's just 5 guys and they have 1 gun, they're going to be firing it.
Robert Spencer, founder of Jihad Watch and the Shulman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Robert, thank you for the time today. I know you've got to run, but we appreciate the time you're able to give us, and your expertise and analysis of this is second to none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. That's Robert Spencer joining us here on Strictly Speaking. That was a big blessing for us that he was available. I reached out to, like I said, 2 of my top people. When I say mine, I mean, I've been able to establish some relationships with some very important people in this field, Middle East expertise. And we have 2 of them today. Robert Spencer was leading off, and Claire Lopez is going to pick it up about a half an hour from now at about 8 o'clock. We'll probably talk to Daniel Greenfield sometime later this week as well, and other, international experts, because this show that we do, this podcast that we do, and this live stream that we do every day is very local in terms of its scope. It's Northeast Ohio centric. It's Ohio centric as well. But of course, we discuss things that are going on in Minnesota and things that are going on in California and in Texas and all over the country because of the impact they have here on us in Ohio as well. And it's the same thing. You know, what's going on right now in Iran affects us. What's going on in Israel affects us. What's going on in Europe affects us. So the fact that we're able to pull in some of these incredible experts on worldwide affairs like this is really an important thing, and I hope people understand and appreciate that. Like I said, I know primarily you want to talk about Northeast Ohio stuff, but my oh my, this is a really, really extraordinary situation, and we need to address it, and that's what we're doing. So I had to start off the show that way this morning, obviously, because of Robert's schedule. He was only able to be with me at 7:00, and he was only able to stay till 7:30 because he has other interviews that he is doing this morning. He's in demand on Fox News and Newsmax and a lot of other places, as you can imagine. So the fact that, again, we pulled him in early is a huge coup for us. But it denied me the opportunity to greet you at 7:00 the way I normally would, which is to greet the chatters. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for being in. All of my chatters. Wow, I'm seeing a lot of activity up there this morning, which is very, very good. Don't forget, when you come in live, we want you to bring a friend with you each and every morning. We've got to grow. We're starting to see a little bit more growth in terms of our followers and in terms of our subscriptions and so forth, but we need more to be able to be as impactful and influential as we want to be. So thank you for those who are here. Give you the new open. Anybody comment on the new open? It's the same song that we made before, but I put a new video together because I wanted it to be a little bit more, I don't know. I don't even know what you want to call it, to make it a little bit more on point with the lyrics. I'm kind of fired up by that every time I hear it this morning. So, I see some people did speak to it, and that's awesome. Okay, and I'm looking in the chat right now. R.H. Ron says, how does this ticket thing work for Friday? If I try to see the ticket, it gives me a QR code that won't scan. The QR code should take you right to the website. As a matter of fact, I wonder if I could put it up on the screen right now, just so you could scan it. But if you go into the locals community, and I'll talk about what they're talking about in a moment for people who aren't familiar with what's happening on Friday. If you go into the locals, click the join button there underneath me right now. If you click that, you'll go into the locals community, and you'll see the pinned post there is a link to the RSVP page where you can buy your tickets for Friday night's massive Frontline Freedom Festival / ICE Appreciation Party. It's there. And in fact, let me throw this up too, if I can real quick. Now, this is not actually a link to it, but this is just a little reminder. We redid the graphic there of who's going to be there. Look at that. Look at that lineup of conservative stalwarts. I am so blessed to be there on Friday, and will be, by all of these individuals. From the far left, you can see, and boy, he would smack me right now if you heard me saying from the far left. But I mean, on the left side of the pic is, of course, Civil Rights Commissioner Peter Kirsanow. Next to him is the phenomenal Tom Zawistowski, the president and founder of the We the People Convention and the Portage County Tea Party. Then you see me in the middle. Next to me is my guy, Jack Windsor, the founder and the editor-in-chief of the Ohio Press Network. And next to him is the fearless sheriff of Portage County, Bruce Zukowski. They're all going to speak on Friday. And I am so looking forward to hearing everybody as they talk about the importance of what you see in the background there. ICE, baby. It is all about that. It is all about Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I put this in the newsletter yesterday. If you got the newsletter yesterday morning, I made this instead of our normal 5 things to know and 5 things to do. I just give you one thing to do: RSVP for this event. That's the thing. We've got to pack the house on Friday, because we are the first, and to my knowledge, and I'm not in every state, but I think we're the first and the only ICE appreciation event that has been planned or will be carried out. That's the truth. I've kind of looked around. I've tried to do a little bit of search for ICE support, because we all know the nut jobs are out there all the time. They always show up. They're always loud, they're always obnoxious, and they're always dangerous. Everybody. And then what do? We make fun of, and we condemn, and we criticize the leftist, anti-ICE, anti-cop, anti-law enforcement individuals out there. And we get online and we get on the show, and we just kind of say, boy, they suck. We don't do anything to counter the narrative. I'm looking all over the country and I'm looking for anything, any public events. I've looked for photos. I've looked for videos. I've scoured social media. I haven't found anybody doing anything that says we're going to rally for ICE. This reminds me to an extent of, and I want to get you the QR or the login page, or excuse me, the RSVP page as well. So let me share the screen with you and we'll kind of do this together so you can kind of, I want to make this easy for everybody to get. So, all right, so let me bring this up. There's the locals feed. And now you should be able to see the locals feed as well, or you will be in about 2 seconds. Okay, here we go. All right, so there's the locals page where I was telling you, click join and join. This is our own little, like I said, social media ecosystem. We want you to be a part of that. And then I want you to be an unfiltered insider, even more so because it's extraordinarily important that we have support for this operation that we're putting together. Anyway, so when you go to the Strictly Speaking feed right there, there it is. It's the pinned post. It's number 1. It says LFG because let's freaking go. And it's got the explanation of what the ICE party is. The Frontline Freedom Festival that we are holding is this Friday in Brook Park. And there's a list of the guests. And now, actually, I'm going to have to update this because Jack Windsor was a late add to it. So I've got Zukowski and Kursanau and Zawistowski listed there. You all able to see this okay? I don't know if I wonder if I can zoom it up a little bit. Let me see if I can zoom it up a little bit for you. Make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that might help. Just so you know where to go if you have not yet purchased your tickets. Okay. So there's a link. It says get tickets now. All right. It's a Tixola. Oh, you know what else I can do while I'm here? Well, no, I can't. I thought I may have a picture of the shirts as well, but I'll get there. Yeah, click that link where it says get tickets now. And I think you can actually click the picture too and go right to the RSVP page. Nope, that just opened up the picture. All right, let's just go to the link then where it says this one. There you have. And again, that picture's outdated too because Jack Windsor was a late commit to this, but we've got him on. So stick Jack in there with the other picture. But that's where the ticket purchase link is. It's right there. All right. So you say 2 of you are coming. And look at that, for less than it would cost you to go out for a nice dinner with a couple of glasses of wine, you can come out and have a lot of great food and a lot of great camaraderie and a lot of great conservative support for us. And by the way, I mentioned the T-shirts. There they are. I wonder if I can open that up. Yeah, I can if I add to the cart there and maybe zoom that up too. Let me see. Yeah, well, at any rate, yeah, the T-shirts. Now these are being sold as well because we want everybody to be in uniform. But given the cost of making them, we were, it was going to be about $25 a shirt. On the front, it has that logo, I Stand with ICE, and on the back, it's got the smaller logo underneath the back collar of the show, Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. So we put this together at a $25 price point, covering the cost of our materials and having them made. That was going to be the cost of the T-shirts for the night and for going forward, so you can show everybody where you stand. You stand with ICE. Those T-shirts have now been donated to everybody. And were you able to see all of that? I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth between my screen and what you guys see. So I'm hopefully able to show that to you. At any rate, the T-shirts have been donated to us now for all ticket holders, all who have RSVP'd and are paid attendees at the event. Okay. I'm trying to shrink this back down now. My apologies. Work through it here. There we go. Okay. Trying to say about the T-shirts. Mike Adams, who is a tremendous patriot, an absolute supporter of all things that we do. That we support, the Constitution, the rule of law, pro-life, just about everything. He's the guy, Mike Adams, donated the T-shirts, I want to say 1,000 of them, to the Charlie Kirk Vigil back in October in Strongsville. Mike is the founder, his company, CLE23. He donated 1,000 of those White Freedom Charlie Kirk T-shirts at that time to everybody who was at the vigil, which was just, again, incredible. You talk about a gesture. Well, he's given a similar gesture here. He is donating a free t-shirt to every ticket purchaser. Now, if you can't come to the event, you can still buy them on that link for the $25, and we can facilitate that. But for now, just know that a $25 t-shirt comes with every ticket. So it's a $35 ticket to come. It includes heavy appetizers. It includes at least one free alcoholic drink, free soda and water. What else? There's a special menu that is being put together. You can order off of as well while you are there. There's also a Lenten menu for our Catholic patriots who are going to be there and can't enjoy the wings and the other things that are going to be provided. But that $35 ticket that's going to get you all of that also gets you a $25 shirt. That's the value of the shirt, and that's going to be free for ticket purchasers. So that's how you do it. So you want to go to the Locals community page, or if you receive the newsletter, there are links in yesterday's newsletter, plenty of them, to show you or to send you where to buy your tickets for Friday. And it's going to be a huge event. I kind of want to sort of maybe pull up the newsletter and maybe read it, because what I wrote yesterday to the newsletter subscribers kind of explains it better than anything we have done so far. Because I've done some videos, and I'm looking for the actual link to the newsletter. I apologize. I'm trying to do all of this at one time, and having Robert on early gave me a little bit of a rush here, getting everything done today. All right, I want to read it, but I don't know if that I can open it right now. If you'll give me a little bit of grace, though, and buy me just a little bit of time, I might be able to make this happen. All right. I'll tell you what, while I look for that, let me share this with you so that you can kind of, again, just maybe get a reminder of, what I need you to do right now. While I pull up the newsletter, I should say, once again, have a look at the event. In fact, let me get the, there we go. That one's the one that has Jack in it as well. Let me hope that inspires you to go ahead and purchase your ticket, because it is extremely important that we have a huge turnout there from an optics point of view as well, because we are going to flood social media. We're going to flood social media with video and pictures from this event, because we wanted to blast all over the country that this is what it looks like to really, truly support law enforcement. It's more than about just talk. It's more than about just, saying, boy, what they're doing to ICE and doxing them and attacking their families and everything else is just wrong. It's all of that stuff is, it's good that we say those things, but it's not nearly enough. So hold on one second. I think I kind of have it up now as far as the yesterday's newsletter. And maybe I don't. Well, this is a little bit more challenging than I wanted it to be, I'm being honest with you. Tell you what, I'll pull it up on my phone. I can read it to you that way, because like I said, what I've had to say about this is really important, and I think it's important that the messaging be right on this, and that's basically what this is all about here. So yesterday's newsletter went out at 6 a.m. Boy, and I hope everybody received it, because right now I'm running into a couple of roadblocks here in accessing it. I know it was received because I had people who had texted me about it, but for whatever reason, my ability to pull it up right now is limited. It's getting to be rather annoying. There it is. Okay, now I've got it. Okay, here we go. Today's issue of Strictly Speaking this week, and I'm just going to read the entire thing to you because I think it's important, like I said, that we get it. We gather the facts here. This issue is different for a good reason. We have an opportunity before us to do something special this coming Friday, March 6th, and we really need to look ourselves in the mirror and ask if we are all talk or if we actually are willing to take action. And there's the action item right there. If you're looking right now at the screen. There's the action item right there. Go to the RSVP page and buy your tickets and plan to be there on Sunday night. If you can't, or Friday night. Where did Sunday come from? The Sunday newsletter. That's where. If you can't be there, buy one for somebody who can be. If you've got plans and you're going to be out of town or something like that, buy tickets and give them to somebody and tell them this is where you need to go on Friday. We need to look ourselves in the mirror and ask if we're all talk or if we're willing to take action. Each week, we offer 5 things to know, 5 things to do. Well, here is just one thing to do this week. All over the country right now, the left is in the streets protesting. Hang on a second. I just had an idea. Yeah, I'm going to pull this up on my screen after all. I'm sick of looking down, so I want to get this up and available to you. But Friday's event has been planned and worked on very, very hard for the better part of a month. I think probably close to about a month. We've had some strong support and help from our volunteers who are part of our Unfiltered Insiders on the locals community. They have come to meetings, they have attended online meetings, and they have helped there. A lot of them are building some of the decorations, some of the props, some of the things that we need. We're all working very, very hard on this. And we want to make sure, like I said, that this blows up and that this is something that we can show to people all over the country by way of social media. So back to the email. All over the country right now, the left is in the streets protesting ICE. They're organizing school walkouts. They're boxing them in on highways. They're harassing them. They're intimidating them. Officers who are doing nothing more than enforcing the laws that Congress passed. And the media cheers on these lunatics like they're civil rights heroes or something. Meanwhile, the officers of ICE show up to go to work every day knowing they're going to be harassed, intimidated, accosted just for doing their jobs. They show up knowing their families are being harassed as well, including their kids that have to watch their classmates make signs to go outside and spit vile invectives at their dads. Anybody ever think of them, by the way? Anybody ever think about the actual kids? People talk about the ICE agents and how, talking about the radicals. The ICE agents are Nazis and Gestapo and all this other crap that they have. Anybody ever think about their families and their kids especially? These kids go to schools, public schools, just like so many others. And in public schools, the teachers are helping to organize and orchestrate and encourage and promote these walkouts where students are going outside to protest and say terrible things about ICE. And there are kids in those classrooms who are probably shrinking down into their chairs, hoping nobody sees them because their dad is ICE. Talking about tens of thousands of agents around the country with families, and nobody cares. Nobody thinks about them. That's why we're showing up. And that's why we have to show out to say, we support your dads. We support all men and women of law enforcement at the ICE level, at the FBI level, if we're talking feds, or at the state level, local level, county level, all law enforcement officers. That's what we're talking about. That's what March 6th is about. So everybody says they support law enforcement. The question is, are you willing to step up and prove it? The Frontline Freedom Fest, an evening standing with ICE, is in Brook Park on Friday, this Friday from 6 to 9 p.m. It's not going to be a boring political rally. It's not going to be just a protest where we hold signs. It's going to be a high-energy night that's packed with proud patriots who are tired of watching law enforcement get dragged through the mud while the criminal aliens and the illegals, criminal being the operative word, are celebrated and treated like victims. So, as noted, Portage County Sheriff Bruce Zukowski, U.S. Civil Rights Commissioner Peter Kirsanow, Tom Zawistowski of the We the People Convention, Jack Windsor from the Ohio Press Network, all strong voices, all with strong convictions, all with the courage to share them. So your ticket, as I said, covers heavy appetizers, a drink ticket, free soft drinks, access to special ICE-themed drink specials. The kitchen is going to be open with a special menu tailored for the event, a Lenten menu for our Catholic patriots. Come hungry. You're going to eat well. But Friday, more than anything, and more than just listening to the patriots giving the speeches, We're going to make it fun. It's going to be high energy. It's going to be loud and proud. We're going to have videos on the big screen highlighting the frontline fight, as well as videos of your favorite parody songs from Strictly Speaking, including GTFO, which is the YMCA parody, Hunters in the Basement, which is the Cats in the Cradle parody, Woke Busters, which is a Ghostbusters parody, Kamala Said Come Closer, which is Jay and the Americans, the Come a Little Bit Closer parody, and also Zach and Suzanne, which is the Jack and Diane parody. All of these. Oh, and Cammie, You're a Fine Girl, which is the Brandy, You're a Fine Girl parody. These are all fun things that we have done through the years. We're going to have those all on the big screens playing. We're going to have games and contests, great prizes. One grand prize winner is going to be sitting here with me, not necessarily next to me, but we will. I will be raffling off a chance to co-host this show with me, an entire 2 hours, blasted to thousands of people. And we're averaging a little over 3,500 views per episode, by the way, not during the live stream, but as people watch it later on during the days. But we're averaging around 3,500 views per episode, which is growing. It was around 2,800 a month ago. So it is growing in terms of its reach, and you're going to be on it if you're our grand prize winner. That raffle item is going to be at the event on Friday as well. And as I said, also, the T-shirt is going to be available to you. If you are not attending it, you can buy one for $25, two for $40. If you are attending, everybody who is a paid attendee will get a free donated shirt from CLA 23, the I Stand With ICE T-shirt that we've been featuring. So, like I said before, if we mean what we say about backing the badge, securing the border, and defending the rule of law, this is our moment. The other side shows up all the time. If you believe in actual border security and American sovereignty, if you believe illegal immigration is harming this country and that law enforcement deserves our support instead of slander that they get, then we have to show up. All right? Get in the room on March 6th. Bring a friend, fill the place, bring your smartphones too. Bring your phones and be prepared to flood social media with your pictures and your videos to let the country see that ICE officers have real visible support. All right, we need to make it loud. We're going to make it fun, and we're going to make it clear that here, at least in Northeast Ohio, we stand with people who enforce the law. I'm reminded, if I'm being honest with you, I'm reminded of something that I took part in. Gosh, how long has it been? 15 years ago, maybe? When was the Sea of Blue in downtown Cleveland? Does anybody remember the Sea of Blue? I was spending a lot of time. I want to say this is around 2007, maybe 2008. There was a shooting incident in Cleveland involving Cleveland police. Young thug named Brandon McLeod was being arrested by two Cleveland cops when they served a warrant at his home, and his mother said, he's not here. It turns out he was hiding upstairs in the bedroom. They went up to get him. He burst out at them from behind the bed or in the closet or wherever it was with a knife, and they shot and killed him, which of course is what they should have done. And that's of course what the investigation found. And of course this was before BLM, but the lunatics, the anti-cop protesters went absolutely crazy on the cops. And that was a part of a larger thing that was going on at the time too. And I wish I could remember the exact year. But we were relentless and, doing pro-cop stuff at that time. And there was a sea of blue that was set up and scheduled for downtown Cleveland, right there in Public Square. And I was among the featured speakers that day. And I will tell you, it was one of the most incredible moments of my career, maybe my life, because there were at least 10,000 people out on that square. And I got up on a big lift and overseeing everything and rallied people like, I don't know how to describe it, because I'm not trying to be self-important here as much as to say how important it was that I was allowed to be a part of that. And it just generated a surge of support for law enforcement that had been on the defensive for so long, for so many reasons. Maybe this is like 2009 or 10. I wish I could remember the time. But anyway, because I think Obama was in at that time and he was doing his attacks on police. At any rate, it was one of the best moments that I've ever had because I was so proud to be with 10,000 patriots. And there are aerial photos of the Sea of Blue, which make it look exactly like that, a giant blue sea, everybody wearing blue T-shirts. And it was just huge. And after the rally and after we spoke and after we fired people up and expressed all that support for law enforcement, then we all marched down. There was a big walk to the memorial for the police memorial. It was just an incredible day. And this is different than that. This isn't going to be 10,000 people. This is going to be a couple hundred people, but I want all 200 or 250 or whatever we can fit inside that building to be there. Okay. And we're going to have our shirts. They're not going to be Sea of Blue shirts. They're going to be I Stand With ICE shirts. And we need to do the same thing. And then we need to do something was much less at the time. Social media was not anywhere near what it is today. We need to take advantage of it. And like I said, flood the zone. And we're going to be hashtagging everybody, I Stand With ICE, on all of your posts, all of your videos, all of your pictures that you're able to take on Friday. So it's Friday the 6th. Let me share it again if I can. If you are unsure about how to purchase your tickets and where to find the RSVP. And I saw some people in the chat saying that they were. Let me bring it back up again here. All you need to do is go to the locals page, which I'm sharing with you as of now. I think you should be able to see that. Go to the locals community page there. Okay. And I'll scroll it again. This is the top of the page. This is the Strictly Speaking page. If you just go to the locals community and look for Bob France, look for Strictly Speaking, Unfiltered, or whatever, navigate to the feed right there. You can see it. Hopefully you can see me circling this with my cursor. And it's the pinned post. See that pin right there? That means it's the first post. I posted it on February 24th, but it's pinned up there as the top post right now. And if you scroll down in the post, you'll see the link right there. It says Get Tickets Now. Get Tickets Now. Right there is how you do it. Click that. And it'll pull up the RSVP window, the Tixola. You tell them you want to bring 2 people, and you hit your reserve your tickets, and you put in your credit card information. Oh, there's the opportunity to purchase a shirt. If you want to support the cause, purchase the shirt, but know that as a ticket buyer, you're getting one free. Go to your cart, check out, and away you go. And you're in business. It's just that simple. So it's the cost of eating out on a regular Friday night anyway, but with a whole lot more, including 2 hours of pro-law enforcement and pro-ICE information and entertainment. Trust me, it's going to be entertaining as well. All right. So that's what I have for you now. We are going to take a very, very short time out here for a moment while I get things set up for my next guest. I do believe she is in the green room right now, and I'm very much looking forward. We were blessed and honored to be able to have Robert Spencer on just a short while ago this morning. And we are just as honored and fortunate to have Claire Lopez. I told you I was bringing out my heavy hitters, my Middle East experts, jihad experts. Robert Spencer, founder of Jihad Watch, and Claire Lopez are 2 of the very, very best. But I'm going to get a short time out here before we begin hour number 2 on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, that's enough of the timeout. I want to get right back into it now. Obviously, we have a lot of work still to do to try to understand what is happening across the Middle East right now. And quite frankly, here at home, the massive strikes by the U.S. and Israel on Saturday shocked everybody. The fact that it was so successful and targeted that it was able to take out the supreme leader of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei, is just extraordinary. The fact that most of his top leadership was also taken out with him, as Robert Spencer talked about and confirmed, is incredible as well. But now the question is, where do we go from here? Not only with respect to the actual operations, which are going to be probably, according to President Trump, at least another month or so. But what does this mean for us here at home? Is this a true national security event that took place? Robert Spencer says it is. I told you he's one of my top guns, and my second, or not in order of importance, but I've got two today. I'm very fortunate. I would love to have a roundtable. That'd be amazing if I could have somebody like Robert Spencer and Claire Lopez together. That would be extraordinary. Claire Lopez is the founder and president of Lopez Liberty LLC, with a mission to alert and educate Americans on a range of national security threats, international as well, from the Islamic movement, the Muslim Brotherhood, and their collaborators among the ranks of Marxists and communists in this country. She is an Iran expert, maybe second to no one, and we are very privileged to be able to bring her back to our program here on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Claire Lopez, thank you so much for the time. And I apologize, I'm having a little bit of a glitch here, getting my screen just right so I can bring you back on, or bring you on and make it visible. And we're working toward that. Here we go. There she is. Claire Lopez, thank you for your patience, and thank you for coming on this morning. Claire, how are you?
Yeah, good morning, Bob. Thank you very much for having me. Bit over the top with that introduction, but I much appreciate it and glad to be with you.
Well, I meant what I said. I mean, you are just, I've been talking to you for years and years now, and I've just learned so much from you. Each time we talk, I feel smarter when we're done. Same thing with Robert, who was on with me at 7 o'clock this morning. And I really think I need all of the, all hands on deck when it comes to understanding this Iranian situation. So Claire, let's start with this, since obviously you are an expert in this field. What does the death of the Ayatollah Khamenei mean to Iran? And when I say to Iran, I'm talking about its people that have been subjugated and oppressed for so very long under that heavy Sharia hand guided by the Ayatollah. And also, what does it mean to Iran in terms of its standing in the region?
Well, it's a very significant opening to the salvo of, this strike package by the United States, Operation Epic Fury, and Israel, Operation Roaring Lions. A real quick fun fact here, the Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, in fact, was never actually legitimately an Ayatollah to begin with. What happened way back in 1989, when the Ayatollah Khomeini, who staged the 1979 revolution, when he died in 1989, the designated successor was to have been the Grand Ayatollah Montazeri. However, he had fallen into disfavor because he criticized the regime's prison slaughter of tens of thousands, mostly Mujahideen Khalq prisoners in the jails in 1988. So they had to quickly find somebody else, and they settled on Khamenei. However, at the time, he was merely a middling rank Shiite cleric, a Hojat al-Islam. He wasn't an Ayatollah at all, but they had no time. So he didn't have the credentials, he didn't have the scholarship, he didn't have the standing within the Shiite clerical hierarchy, but they bumped him up anyway artificially to be an Ayatollah. So he never really was one to begin with, but he is gone now. It's significant that the supreme leader is no longer there, and a triumvirate, if you will, of three men supposedly going to take over the governing for the time being until the Assembly of Experts, whose responsibility it is, will elect a new supreme leader. There are varying reports out there about who's on this interim three-man council, leadership council. Supposedly President Pezeshkian is one. The head of the judiciary, what is his name again? Mohsen Ejei. There are reports that he's been killed. There's reports that he's on the leadership council. Number three would be a senior cleric from the Guardian Council, that one reportedly being Ali Reza Arafi, although there are reports that he's been killed too. So lots of, difficulty in sorting this all out. But that, anyway, a three-man panel, leadership council, is supposed to rule now. But I'll finish with this. Even though the position, the office of the supreme leader is enormously significant, obviously, since the 1979 revolution in Iran, truly that's not who's been running the country for quite some time. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, or Pasdaran, has been running the country. And I think going forward right now, that's who's running the country at the moment. In particular, some certain names have been put out there. Ali Larijani, who is the secretary of the National Security Council of Iran, is one of those names, former IRGC background, and some others. But it's not really the supreme leader, who at the time of his death was 86, I guess, going on about 87 years old, who was running the country. It's the IRGC. And that's, I think, the challenge, the danger going forward, that unless the Pasdaran is really eliminated and its power is obliterated, that's who could take over in Iran.
We'll talk about that takeover in a moment. We'll talk about the IRGC as well, but I want to talk about Khamenei's death from a symbolic standpoint. People, Iranian Americans, dancing in the streets, yes, chanting in support and thanking President Trump. Iranians in Iran, same thing, yes, because he has been overseeing the murder of thousands, tens of thousands of them, simply for protesting and demanding an end. And Robert Spencer told me, and I read this in a couple of other locations as well, Claire, that many Muslims are completely abandoning Islam just in the last 48 hours since the supreme leader, has been killed. They feel like they've been subjugated by Islam itself and their interpretation and their, the forced compliance with that. So can you speak to that aspect of this? The Islamic Revolution, like you said, that kind of began in 1979, it was not always how Iran was.
No.
And now that the Ayatollah is gone, it seems like there are a whole lot of Iranians who are saying, that's it. We're done with this. We're done living undercover and everything else that Sharia law requires.
Yeah. So you may know there are literally tens of thousands of Ayatollahs in Iran. So he's not the Ayatollah, was not. He was the supreme leader, a titular title, obviously. And yes, people are dancing and rejoicing, celebrating in the streets not just in the United States, in Iran, as you say, and all over the world, honestly. Here in the United States, one of the biggest gatherings took place in Los Angeles, which hosts probably the largest diaspora population of Iranians in America. Just overjoyed. So it's hugely symbolic, yes, that Khamenei is no longer with us. But to your point about Iran itself, Persia is what Iran used to be. Persia is centuries old, thousands, 2,500 more years old as a civilization. And they were never Muslim until about the 640s, current era, when the armies of Islam invaded Persia. Now, Persia had been weakened at that time by long battles with the Byzantine Empire, and in rather quick succession, both of these empires went down to Islam, Persia and the Byzantines. Now, the Persian people were never Muslim. As we've said, they were followers of Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is an ancient faith, probably just about as old as Judaism itself. Believes in one true God, creator of the universe. It believes in the juxtaposition, which just like Judaism and Christianity, juxtaposition of good and evil, light and dark, and that belief, carries over in customs to this very day. We've just begun the month of March. And as we know, the spring equinox is the 21st of March. That for the Persian people, many others around the world, but in particular, those who remember and celebrate their Zoroastrian culture, the 21st of March is the beginning of the new year. And the celebration is called Nowruz. 2 words. No means new. Ruz means day in Farsi. Nowruz, new day, meaning the new year. And one of the customs that especially the young people keep around this celebration is the fire. Fire, of course, having a lot of symbolism for these people, and they set little, not big, little bonfires in the parking lots of apartment buildings and so forth. And then the young guys, I think it's mostly the guys, they come and they jump over the fire. And that symbolizes going from the darkness of winter into the light of the coming spring, but also that juxtaposition once again of light versus darkness, light overcoming darkness. So all of these customs are things that the people of Persia have remembered all of these centuries and are going back to. And in a matter of fact, over the last, I don't know how many years, but the mosques across Iran have been closing. Then nobody goes. The mosques are closed. And during the street protests, at the height of the street protests 2 months ago now, January, they were setting fires to some of those empty mosques. Mm-hmm. So they're not converting to anything else. I mean, they're just up to here with anything to do with religion. They want nothing to do with religion anymore, especially the young people, which is a very large cohort of that population. But they are keeping and remembering their Zoroastrian cultural roots.
Claire, you mentioned, the Ayatollah is one of many, but he was the supreme leader, and taking him out is huge symbolically, even though he wasn't necessarily running the country in many ways. It might not be the best equivalency, but I think about the title of king. King Charles isn't actually running England. England is being run by its parliament and by its prime minister, but it's still significant. So let's talk about who is running Iran, the IRGC that you just mentioned. The leadership there has got to be next on the target list, right? Because President Trump said yesterday in his update I'm sorry. It's just President Trump said yesterday in his update, this is not done. It's going to be probably about a month's worth of operations here. So if they've already taken out the Ayatollah Khamenei and they've already taken out a whole lot of other leadership underneath the Ayatollah, that particular Ayatollah, is that the goal of the next month then? Are they targeting the actual IRGC leadership?
Yes, I think among the first targets for both Israel and the United States have been those security forces, the forces that kept the regime in power, in other words. And of course, top of that list, IRGC, Pasdaran, and its units, Quds Force, Basij, also on down to the National Police. And every one of these has bases and facilities, headquarters in each of Iran's 31 provinces. So this is a nationwide network of control that had kept the population down, oppressed, and suppressed in January, as we saw, brutally murdering, over we don't even know the numbers, 30,000.
36,000 is what, 36.5, I think, is what Robert gave me earlier.
Could be more, and we just don't even know. But these are the forces that did that. And so, yes, the IRGC leadership has been among the first targets for Israel and the United States. I might add here that the way that both last year, back in June of 2025 in those strikes, and now the precision of the targeting inside of Iran against specific leadership figures, and I'll name a few of these. It has been incredible. And how did they do that? Well, I think, this is my analysis, my own, personal take on it. But the Mossad is bar none, the intelligence service with the greatest capability there in the Middle East. I think that they have been probably working for a very long time with the Iranian resistance forces on the ground inside the country, specifically with the Mujahideen Khalq. However, there are also many ethnic minority groups geographically around Iran's periphery, if you will, the Baluchis in the south east, the Azeris up in the north, the Kurds up in the northwest up against the border with Iraq, and then the Ahwaz Arabs down along the Persian Gulf in the southwest as well. And they also have been fighting this regime for a long time. Notably, we'll see that the Kurdish factions, 5 of them that had been squabbling among themselves for a long time, just around a week or 10 days or so ago, joined together, put aside their differences, and unified. That's hugely significant. Across the borders, Kurds span the border between Iran and Iraq. Now, as to the IRGC and the targeting, we see that, all right, I'm looking at my list here. So Mohammed Pakpour, the IRGC commander, taken out. I understand that his replacement is Ahmed Vahidi, a new commander of the IRGC. That name may be familiar to some. Vahidi, was notably the commander of the operations in Buenos Aires, Argentina, carried out by the Hezbollah jihadi proxy of Iran back in 1992 against the Israeli embassy, 1994 against the Amia Jewish Cultural Center, also in Buenos Aires. That was Vahidi, commander of the IRGC, now replacing Mohammed Pakpour. As I understand, Vahidi is still there.
How much, Claire, how much of a hit is that for them that the actual IRGC commander is gone? How much of a step down is it to that second in command?
Not so much. Even last June, as we were talking about 2025, Operation Rising Lion and Operation Midnight Hammer took out many of these same leadership figures that we're talking about today. But what's notable about the Iranian regime is the depth of their backup bench, if you will. They have long thought about how they might need to replace the top leadership, in this case, Pakpour at the IRGC with Vahidi. However long Vahidi's expected lifespan is at this moment, be assured there are ranks and ranks behind him. Now, not all with the same experience, not all with the same stature. No, and as you know, the ranks move on down, you know, they will have less and less of that experience and capability. So.
Well, and not only those senior ranking officials that you're talking about, but the question is who do they have to command? How much have the Iranian forces been harmed by, you mentioned the Mossad a few moments ago, and I talked to Robert about this too, about this prayer app, you know, in which they basically reached out to select individuals through that app, telling them, if you will pick up arms against the regime and join us in this effort, we will not only spare your life, but, you know, they offered them other incentives. So do you think there will be a large number of Iranians who receive that message turning on the regime, turning on the IRGC and saying, yeah, I'd rather have freedom than exist under this?
Yeah, that may be happening. If we heard President Trump's kind of short statement made to the press yesterday, he said that many thousands of phone calls were coming through. I don't know what channel or exactly to whom, but many thousands of phone calls, he said, from regime forces like IRGC to ask for amnesty, to ask to be included in not part of the regime anymore. So what's a little bit unclear is who they are. Is this all Pasdaran? Is this police, more local level? Don't know for sure. But President Trump said many thousands of phone calls. The other question would be, to whom should they give up their weapons? Or should they hang on to their weapons and simply turn them away from the people and against the regime? Not real clear about that, and we're not seeing evidence that that's happening quite yet. But obviously, with the regime itself at the top leadership levels being taken out, crumbling, it's to be expected that there will be those among the rank and file that will, choose the other way, to go in the other direction with the people.
Claire, you were giving us a list of names of successors and so on and so forth, but that's very narrow scoping this. I want to go bigger picture here and just ask you, given your history, your career in the CIA and your study of Iran and Islam and the entire Middle East, bigger picture, was this the right time?
It could have been earlier. We all might have liked it to have been earlier. Certainly the Iranian people were hoping it would have been earlier, shortly after, perhaps in January, the great slaughter of the people in the streets, 8th and 9th of January this year, 2026, when President Trump posted on his Truth Social account, "Help is on the way." And then, of course, it was necessary, I mean, there was no way around it, to take the time necessary to gather all these forces that the United States has amassed in the Middle East region, to include 2 aircraft carriers, the USS Abraham Lincoln coming in from the Far East, now posted somewhere south of around the Arabian Sea, more or less, and then coming off the east coast of the United States, the USS Aircraft Carrier Strike Group Gerald Ford, now having arrived in the Eastern Mediterranean, taking up its post close off the coastline of Israel, off of Haifa. And then in addition to that, dozens and dozens of fighter jets, anywhere from F-15s, F-16s, F-18s, F-22s, important those, the Raptors, posted in Israel. And then, of course, the aerial refueling tankers to keep them all flying in the sky pretty much 24/7 is the capability they've got there now. And importantly, really importantly, to get into the Middle East, not just for our own bases and facilities, military, diplomatic, and otherwise, but for our allies, partners, and friends in the region. Of course, number one, Israel, but also some of these Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and the Emirates and so forth, to get to them all air defense systems. There were not enough there at the beginning, let's say back end of December, beginning of January. They had to surge a supply of air defense, Patriot missile defense systems, THAAD defense, aerial defense systems, to all of these places. That was a huge undertaking. That's why the delay. So yes, I mean, of course, everybody is watching, as the strikes unfold now. Could it have been sooner? Would we have liked it to have been sooner? Yes, of course. But watch now.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. From the standpoint of American blood, tell the American people why this is just and why this is worth the blood. 3 dead so far that we know of, 4 now, and a number injured. And President Trump said, sadly, this is the nature of he didn't say the word war because the war has not been declared, but he said it's the nature of these operations. There will be more. So there are American troops who are going to die in this effort, and there are American citizens, many, who are saying, while we sympathize with the people of Iran who have been oppressed and murdered and everything else that you just described, it's not our fight. It's our job to protect and defend the United States. And to the extent that there may have been, as you said, a missile program, the ballistic missiles that may have been able to target American interests, if not the American homeland, understood. But if it's being framed as we're liberating the American people, is it the job of Americans to die to liberate Iranians? That's the question.
I think we need to recall the history of this regime. Again, going back to the revolution of 1979, it was very shortly after that that it appears, from best information we have, that Iran began its serious drive for deliverable nuclear weapons. Those nuclear weapons achieved a level of development in recent times, recent months, that alarmed not just President Trump, but our entire national security infrastructure with the closeness that regime had achieved to actually developing a nuclear weapon. That, in coordination with the development of intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, and testing such missiles with ranges intended to reach as far as 10,000 miles. That was not for Israel. That was for us. And we know that during the last year, 2025, multiple reports came out of the Iranian opposition group, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, about the development of nuclear warheads and the progress that the regime had been making to adapt those warheads to the nose cones of the missiles. That work was very far advanced. Now let's go back again. What has the regime done to justify American operations against it? Well, maybe we can start with Khobar Towers in 1996, right? And then the attacks on the East Africa embassies in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam, that was 1998. The attack on the USS Cole with multiple naval casualties, that was in October of 2020. Let's come to 9/11, which I don't think gets anywhere near the attention it should. That was a coordinated attack among the Iranian regime, Al-Qaeda, of course, Hezbollah, and with participation, of course, Taliban and the Saudis too. Was that not enough to justify retaliation against this regime? 2,977 casualties on 9/11 itself, with so many more later on, dying of effects from being on the sites of New York and Pentagon and so forth. If that wasn't enough, then the current new development of these ballistic missiles with their range of 10,000 miles planned, and the development, we heard Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy to the talks that had been held with the Iranian regime, Foreign Minister Amir Abbas Araghchi and the others. We heard Steve Witkoff say, just about a week ago or so, that the assessment of the United States intelligence community was that Iran was a week away, 1 week away from enough enriched uranium to put together a nuclear warhead. All of that is reason enough, I think, that, well, in my opinion, Iran and that regime should have been taken down a long time ago.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that at all. Of course, it begs the question, particularly as it pertains to 9/11, if that evidence was there that Iran was complicit in this as well. We all pointed our fingers, of course, at the Taliban. We all know that most of the hijackers, 15 of the 19, were Saudis, and the Taliban obviously allowed them to train and funded them and so forth. All of those targets certainly made sense, but Iran, nobody really talked about. And then, of course, we went into Iraq.
Yeah. It was totally squashed.
Yeah.
I speak from the experience of having been an expert witness in a legal case. The case was called Havlish versus Bin Laden et al., handled by the Southern District of New York Federal District Court under Judge George Daniels. And in that case, I co-authored one of the affidavits. And in that affidavit with my co-author, Bruce Teft, sadly no longer with us, we described the history of the Iran, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah jihadi relationship. It goes back to 1990 in Khartoum, Khartoum in Sudan. At the end of the war in Afghanistan, the Soviet army had been pushed out. The Mujahideen were mostly going back to wherever they came from, but the Saudis would not take back Osama bin Laden, who had not been a fighter, but a financier. They wouldn't take him back and his followers. Smart. So where did they go? They went to Khartoum, to Sudan, at the invitation of then President Umar al-Bashir and his Muslim Brotherhood partner, Hassan al-Turabi. And they held what I've come to call a jihad jamboree. And at that meeting, the first one and many others to follow, early 1990, or maybe it was about later in the year of 1990, but then through the early 1990s, more meetings. And who was there? The entire top leadership of the Iranian regime at the time. President Ali Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani was there. The head of Iranian intelligence, Ali Falahian, was there. The head of the IRGC at the time, Mohsen Rezai, was there. Representing Hezbollah was Imad Mughniya. Imad Mughniya headed the terror operations of Hezbollah for many years before he went off to meet his virgins in 2008 in an a hit in Damascus. But what I'm getting at here is the collaboration. Our intelligence services and many others simply never understood what was going on, that Shiites and Sunnis could and did combine and work together against the West. And so what came out of that meeting, that first one in Khartoum, was this specifically. The leader of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, was there. Ayman al-Zawahiri, as number 2 at the time, was there too. Osama bin Laden turns to President Rafsanjani of Iran and says, hey, I really like what your Hezbollah boys do with great big truck bombs against buildings, referring back to the 1983 attack against our Marine Corps barracks in Beirut, as well as our embassy. The French too got hit. Osama bin Laden says, can your guys teach my guys how to do that? Suicide truck bombings. And Rafsanjani says, Imad Mughniya, come on over here. Imad Mughniya then, on orders of Iran, set up training camps in Sudan, in Lebanon, other places, probably in Iran too, to teach Al-Qaeda how to do big building suicide bombings. And what followed? As we mentioned, Khobar Towers, 1996. East Africa embassy bombings, 2 embassies, Nairobi, Dar es Salaam. USS Cole, not a truck, but a boat, a rubber dinghy, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And then, of course, 9/11 itself with airplanes. These were the results of Al-Qaeda, Iran, and Hezbollah coming together, and so ruled Judge George Daniels in December of 2011. We won that case in his court. He ruled that Iran and Hezbollah were co-responsible with Al-Qaeda for the attacks of 9/11. President Obama was in office at the time. The entire case, the entire conclusion and ruling were utterly squashed. And to this day, I wonder if even President Trump himself has ever been briefed on this.
That's a scary thought. And a great explanation, obviously. I want to talk about what happened yesterday in Austin. I guess it was Austin, wasn't it?
Yeah, Texas. Mm-hmm.
How alarmed should we be about we already know there are retaliatory strikes being made against American interests from Iran for obvious reasons, and we'll also have to talk in a moment about the UAE and Saudi Arabia and others actually supporting what the U.S. did to Iran in the region. But how concerned should we be about retaliation from these types of people, whether he's a lone wolf or a part of an organization? Yesterday, the one I belong to Allah or property of Allah or whatever it was that he wore when he went in. Yeah. I don't know if he's a lone wolf or not, but whether he is or not, how worried do we need to be about other lone wolves or, sleeper cell members? A whole lot of people from a whole lot of bad places came into the country in the previous 4 years. And a lot of people think they were all from Central and Latin America. They're not. They were from the Middle East as well. Tons of terrorists came into this country. And maybe this was the impetus they need to start carrying out these types of attacks yesterday. Or do you think yesterday might have been just a one-off?
Well, we can only hope it was a one-off, but I don't think so. The first thing I'll say is that there's really no such thing as a lone wolf if you're talking about a faithful, obedient Muslim who will have belonged to a mosque, to an Islamic center. He's got a network. He's not a lone wolf by any means, was not. But yes, we should be concerned. And from reporting that we've seen in the media, the FBI, FBI and other local law enforcement across the country are on an increased state of alert because, as we know, just as you said there are so many that we don't even know who they are, how many they are, where they come from, unvetted, unknown even, tens and hundreds of thousands perhaps in the country. From places all over the world that came across the open borders during the 4 years of the Biden administration. So, everybody is on heightened alert, according to media reports. Especially, I think we should note that there is a large network of Hezbollah in this country. We know that in particular because of the numbers of different court cases that have come to public attention over the years, but also just within diaspora communities of Shiites, many from Lebanon, not to tar them all with the Hezbollah brush, but that is the community in which Hezbollah conceals itself, whether they're willing to have them or not. But many, many Hezbollah here. The other group I would mention are the Chinese young military-aged men belonging to what is called the Jungle Tigers, which is a special brigade of the Chinese People's Liberation Army and a special operations brigade that poured across our borders. We got that from reporting by journalists like Michael Yon also at the time, Todd Bensman, who's now inside at DHS, but reporting from the southern part of Central America, Panama, on the northern side of the Darien Gap, where they were and were watching, and villagers were reporting to them, this stream of young Chinese military-age men. And in particular, I'll tell you something really disturbing, and that was from Michael Yan, who was talking to villagers on the Panamanian side of the Darien Gap, watching these Chinese men coming through. And the villagers told Michael, that these Chinese men were doing something really weird. They were buying chickens, killing the chickens, and then drinking shots of their blood. Now, they didn't know, Michael didn't know what that was about. He contacted a good friend of ours, Li Mengyan, Dr. Li Mengyan, a epidemiologist, virologist, who escaped out of China, Hong Kong, really, out of Hong Kong, back in the fall of 2020. Contacted her, and she said, oh, yes, that drinking of the chicken blood thing, that is the signature ritual of the Jungle Tigers Brigade of the People's Liberation Army. That's who these guys are. We don't know how many. Obviously, they did not come through ports of entry, but rather surged through the spaces in between them when everything was wide open on our southern border. Tens of thousands, 10, 15, we don't know how many thousands of jungle tigers are here. What is their purpose? What are they waiting for? What are they going to do? What are their operational instructions? So put those together, Hezbollah, jungle tigers, there's good reason to be on high alert for FBI and law enforcement.
It's a very disgusting story that you just told, but it's an important one. It's kind of weird. I wonder how they survive that. If you eat undercooked chicken, you can get very, very sick, much less drinking raw chicken blood. What's that?
Yeah, this was just the blood. I guess they probably cooked the chickens, but the blood is what they were drinking.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just assumed the blood, whatever flows through the chicken, it's going to be bad. But at any rate, that's a great point that you make about the different terror groups and potential threats that we face. What about threats from Americans? I want to share this with you for a second and with everybody else. This is, Claire, as I understand it, it says a former Elizabeth Warren campaigner, and apparently a pretty prominent leftist in social media circles, Calla Walsh, who posted this yesterday. The only real justice for Imam Khamenei and for all the martyrs will be the total and complete dismantling of the U.S. and, quote, Israel, end quote. Anything less is a capitulation. I share that primarily to ask you, Claire, do you think we have to worry about any American collaborators with, whether it be the Jungle Tigers or with the Hezbollah or any of the other terrorists that might be in the United States looking to aid and assist in retaliation in Iran?
Obviously, yes, right? I just hope that our own law enforcement, FBI in particular, have been made aware of this tweet. I don't know if there are others like it out there, but I would expect there may be.
I would too.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely something that has to be looked at.
What do you think? What do you make of that? What do you make of the fact that what's really bizarre too is she's a white leftist woman in America, and it just seems like white leftist women are they're the leaders of the protests of everything that are going on. ICE has been responsible for the removal of 2 to 3 million illegal aliens thus far, criminal illegal aliens. And I think I heard last week that at least 1,000 of them were confirmed terrorists, not just the radicals, but terrorists, and I don't know how many of them are Islamic terrorists, but that's just, what you think of. But the point being, you have white liberal women protesting against ICE, stopping them from removing terrorists, along with, cartel members and so on and so forth. And they have been the loudest voices, at least in the last 48 hours that I've seen, condemning President Trump for this strike on Iran. I can't figure out particularly, Claire, and you have talked about this at length about the subjugation of women and what happens to women in that, particularly that Islamic Republic. One would think that a woman who believes in feminism and believes in equal rights and so on and so forth would not be so defensive and supportive of quote unquote Imam Khomeini and the other martyrs. You would think they would be like, good, these people, treat women like cattle, for crying out loud. This would be somebody you wouldn't think they would want to defend.
Well, let it be said that among the ranks, as you say, of these mainly white liberal women, none has ever really been accused of doing too much homework. I think they probably have no idea what goes on under regimes that enforce Islamic law or Sharia. And that would certainly apply to the Iranian regime since 1979. But other places too, the Taliban, in Afghanistan under the Taliban, in Gaza, formerly under Hamas, in other places, Pakistan, Somalia, you can name a bunch. They have no idea how women are treated, or anybody else for that matter. Let me put in a plug, if I might, right here. Each month I compile a newsletter list of horrors, the things that are done to women and girls under Sharia. The newsletter is called Women Under Sharia, Women Under Sharia, SHARIAH, and it is posted each month at Chris Wright's website called Liberato.us. Liberato is small l, IBERATO.us. And each month that newsletter goes up. It's a compilation of the previous month's litany of horrors inflicted upon women and girls, increasingly horrifically, in Western countries. In places in Europe, for example, but also all across the Islamic world, and in particular, yes, in Iran. So they have no idea. And I'm sure they've never read the Quran or the verses in it that subjugate women, order Muslim men to beat their wives, verse 434, to allow the rape of non-Muslim women and girls who are taken as in your right hands. All of this. The word of a woman in a court of law under Sharia is worth 1/2 that of a man, meaning 2 women must be required to counter the testimony of 1 man. A Muslim man may have 4 wives and as many concubines or sex slaves as he can gather. All of this is in the Quran. They have no idea.
Well, I don't know how they cannot. And by the way, hopefully everybody can see this on the screen right now. I did pull up the website, the Liberato.us, and I found one of your. I don't know if you can see it on your screen.
Yeah, that was the most recent one, I think.
Yeah, Litany of Horrors awaits women under Sharia, February of 2026. This is yours. Really important, and I'm going to make sure to push this out in my newsletter as well, so more and more people do understand this. But I don't understand, Claire, what you just said. How on earth they cannot be aware of this? It's not like this has not been covered, and somewhat extensively. Maybe not on CNN, and maybe not in the
not in the places
American.
they frequent. No.
Yeah, but I mean, my goodness. Female genital mutilation, I mean, is something that is known around the world. Honor killings is known and has been known. And it's just like they want to turn away. It's like they know it, but they don't want to have to defend it.
I don't think they know it.
With their worldview, so they kind of pretend it doesn't exist.
I don't think they know it. I don't think they do. Yes, in the places that we look at and read and post to, like Chris Wright's site, Liberato.us, Women Under Sharia. It's there. But do any of these that we're talking about actually know about these sites, look at them, read them? And those, in the universities, or maybe just coming out of the universities, young 20-something graduates and that, they would not have heard any of this, very likely not, in their coursework for their degrees. They have no idea. Even though FGM, that is female genital mutilation, which, by the way, in every one of the 4 schools of Sunni Islamic jurisprudence is either condoned, permitted, or encouraged. And in one, the Shafi school, it is obligatory. Then on the Shiite side, there is a subsect called the Dawoodi Bohra of the Shiite Ismaili sect of Islam, under which FGM is also obligatory. That's the Dawoodi Bohra subsect of the Ismaili subsect of Shiite Islam. Obligatory. But they don't know this. They have no idea even what it is. It is, by the way, FGM is now, thanks to a tireless work by many people, a federal crime across the entire United States, federal crime. And something like 30-something, I forget the exact number, of states have now, in each localized state, also criminalized FGM. Not every single state yet. I think it's somewhere in the 30s, close to 40, have criminalized it, but it's a federal crime. But who knows this? How many people actually know this?
Well, not enough. I'll agree with you. Not enough know it. And I think some know it or have heard of it and turn away from it, like I said, because it conflicts with their worldview and they don't want to address it. They certainly have to know that women who are covered head to toe, save for their eyes, and if they wear eye makeup, they're going to have their eyes gouged out. They can be stoned for even being accused of adultery. They have to know those things, even just by appearances.
They don't.
Well, but I mean, even the coverings. If your hair isn't properly covered, for crying out loud, all of the punishments that could be meted out. I don't know. I feel like they have to know a little bit, but they don't want to know too much because then they might actually have to address it. But be that as it may, bringing it back around full circle to what happened over the weekend and where we are right now with respect to the attacks. We have the support of some players in the region, including UAE and including Saudi Arabia. Maybe some others, and it may have to do because of Sunni and Shia, or it may be for other reasons. But it looks like there is a concerted effort, with the exception of maybe France and the UK, supposedly our allies, but there's a concerted international effort to truly see reform here, to not allow just the next Khamenei to take over in Iran. Can you just give me a brief on that aspect of it, how much the international community will play and what happens there?
In the long lead up to these operations by Israel and the United States, the regime in Iran knew this was coming. They could see our forces gathering, and they tried to put out threats against all of their nearby Middle Eastern region neighbors. And that would include the Gulf Cooperation Council countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, even Qatar, Oman, put out warnings that if the United States and Israel were not deterred from these strikes, then it would be a worldwide conflagration. It would be World War III, and the entire Middle East region would be pulled in and go up in flames. That was the regime's attempt to deter the strikes that were inevitably coming. Well, the strikes began, as we know, last Friday night into Saturday morning. And very shortly thereafter, beginning Saturday, 2 days ago, the Iranian regime began its retaliatory strikes. And whom did they hit? Well, they hit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, the Emirates, even Cyprus they took an aim at, Oman, and all of these that they targeted were not at military targets. You might say, well, they were aiming at American bases. Well, in some cases, yes, that's true. But in places like Kuwait, they hit the airport. In Bahrain, they hit a residential apartment building. In other places, likewise, they were civilian structures and targets that were hit. So what happened? Well, all of these Gulf cooperation countries unified. One after the other, we can see this on social media, put out statements from their foreign ministries that they condemn the Iranian attacks against all of each other, members of the region's Gulf Cooperation Council, excuse me, and also that they stand with Israel and the United States in the strikes against that regime. So yes, there may be an element of Sunni versus Shiite. And of course, these Sunni countries were long very worried and concerned about Iran's development of a deliverable nuclear weapon and its ballistic missiles, to carry them. But this was very specifically that they had been attacked by Iran. One of the stupidest mistakes I can imagine them having made, the regime in Iran. But they struck all of these places, as I said, including civilian targets, not only military, and they've unified. They've unified thereby the entire region against the Iranian regime.
You know who hasn't been attacked by Iran, which may explain something, and I've only got about 60 seconds left for you on this one, but the Western European allies I just mentioned. France and the UK are not supportive of this attack on Iran or this regime change or anything of the sort. Why?
Your guess is as good as mine. I know that I've seen the statements coming out from Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Britain, from Macron in France, and so forth. I guess they just don't feel personally threatened, although if you ever look at a map of the range of Iran's missiles, it covers most of Europe and on up as far as the Russia. They don't feel personally threatened, and I guess they just don't want they don't want warfare anyway. They just want everything to be nice.
Well, it's a tragedy that we can't count on some of our supposedly strongest and longest standing allies to stand with us in this, but it is what it is. It is nice to know that we do have the support of those nations that you just mentioned in the region. Obviously, this is just getting started. President Trump has said this is going to be a while. There is going to be more bloodshed. There's going to be a larger cost, but there is an extraordinarily important reward at the end of this. Not only peace and stability in the region, but that means peace and stability, or more of it anyway, for the United States. And that's why this is in our interest. Clare Lopez, like I said, I learn more from you every time we talk, and I appreciate you making yourself available at this early hour. Thank you for coming on. Keep up. And thank you for turning me on to the women under Sharia too. Mm-hmm. I want, if you're right, and white liberal women, who again seem to be the biggest agitators right now, if they don't know about all of this going on under Sharia and in places like this, they need to. So I'm glad to know that this site exists. I'll push it and promote it as much as I can as well.
Good.
And let's get that message out there. This is something that we all should have in common. Clare, thank you. Appreciate you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Bob. Always glad to be with you. I'll be glad to come back as developments proceed.
And we will count on it. Thank you so much. All right, there you go. That's Clare Lopez. She's a treasure. She's got so much information. She has been doing this for her entire career. Again, going back to her time as a CIA intelligence officer as well. All right, that takes us up to 9 o'clock. And obviously with two great guests like Robert Spencer and Clare Lopez this morning, I've been very, very busy and not able to take a look at the chat very much. So I'm hoping that my folks there are doing, thank you, Fed Up Granny says, great show. Hope you guys are doing well amongst yourselves. Radical feminists screech about the Handmaid's Tale while voting in radical Islamists to create the Handmaid's Tale. Good, well done, ladies. Great message, Charlie. Exactly correct. Our main allies in Europe should be Italy and Hungary. The UK and France are not reliable allies, Jim and Parma Heights. Jim, I agree. I think that is true. CMG, excellent show today. Thank you, guys. All right, I'm going to have to go back and check the chat a little bit later on because we're going to have to call this one a show. Once again, most important message I have for you in closing today is that the tickets are on sale right now. And if you cannot find them or you don't know how to find them, I'm just going to make it as simple as possible. Join the locals community or visit the locals community. I don't even know if you have to necessarily become a member of the locals community yet. If you just go to underneath my picture, underneath the screen you're looking at right now, my video, you'll see the join button there. That takes you to the locals page. I shared this earlier in the broadcast. Go to the Strictly Speaking Locals community. The pinned post there is for Friday night's Ice Appreciation Party. Click it, scroll down. There's a link that says 4 tickets here. Click here. All right. It's also all over my Facebook pages, both my personal page, Bob France, which is public, and my Strictly Speaking Unfiltered page with Bob France. Go there. It is the pinned post on each of those places. I'll try to find other ways to make sure that you can get this. I sent it out in the newsletter. If you're a newsletter subscriber, you'll get it there as well. There are all kinds of places to find that RSVP link so that you can be a part of our big event on Friday, our ICE Appreciation. We're calling it Frontline Freedom Fest, and we are supportive and we are supporting ICE. I'll throw this up here on the screen one more time as we go. Here it is. That is a look at the speakers. The lineup that I've put together is powerful. From the right to the left, there's Sheriff Bruce Zukowski from Portage County, fearless in his support of ICE. Jack Windsor, a founder and editor-in-chief of the Ohio Press Network. Then me. Then Tom Zawistowski to my right there. Tom Z is the founder and the president of the We the People Convention. And Peter Kirsanow needs no introduction, member of the United States Commission on Civil Rights. All will be speaking on Friday in Brook Park at McJames. You need to get your tickets now. Tickets for the speakers, tickets, a single ticket gets you all of the speeches. It gets you a ton of entertainment. It gets you a ton of food and drink as well. And it gets you a free t-shirt that says I stand with ICE as well. So get your RSVP tickets bought now before you get locked out. It's going to sell out, but we need it to happen quickly so that we know, that everything is full speed ahead. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Let me drop that back off the screen real quick, just so I can say what I always like to say at the end of every show. I want you to be well. I want you to be safe. I want you to stay free. That's what we can do for one another. Keep fighting the good fight. Share this video. Share this channel with as many people as possible. Subscribe, follow, share. Really, really important. And join the locals community. All right, everyone. Be well, be safe, stay free. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.